We are reaching forward for the removal of absence as a presence, a form of expression for itself. Escaping the burden of body suit. Not the satiations, sensation of themselves. Burden strain of 3 woe men in Walmart resting one with the other. The burdens of endurance for even this will eventually be over. Maybe I'm here so I can relate with the boredom. The tweak outbursts of frustration, waiting for imbeciles to blindly kill the time, by finally killing themselves. The senses of themselves for some form, some just one final form. A final form formlessly satiated and in a final relation to themselves as spectators, feeding on themselves as themselves and finally. It is finished. Do you understand? I just looked out my window and 3 wild cockatiels are playing across the way, so there is that part. Okay. Life lived. Degraded, mishandled, confused as the breath of their own record of testimony between us, not this breath. So the two have become one but not sewn to heart, from the hip and from their forlorn journeys to the ends of a rope, then as of earth itself. Affording all provision to the skepticism, for a furnished critique in a spaceship. The mess that others made. How freeing that you yourself as descriptive autonomy, can leave the living under the specious label survival of the fittest. A clueless inhibition posing for, beyond appetite, searching only for safety and satiation, preserved now again to endure once again, and here on. Silent castaway, stowing chips, scaffold the wall. A mirror for mortar, something to praise yourself for and defend yourself against. A posture of forward leaning, and then whatever happened at least a world on me dependent, has the support of a requiting beneficence. Sounds like a god, but we are still lacking the experience. There's a silent sentimentality to the silence of the lambs, the 10 commandments of cannibalism. Its journeys from here and overeating there. We watched the movie 21 times each, becoming satirically familiar with the reflections in the image. Contrasting justifications, our math lived out in the world around us as heros for them all. Warm-blooded regenerating feedback looped with a depth charge cause for effect momentum status. Then also recent, disease-ridden, infested with parasites. So glad you made it. Living in a paradise not one part organic, all parts prism of perspective and golden as tendency transparent. No color is how we know you, once you exist in the first place. How? Certainty. A resin caught in the chamber 1 to 8, a seal of transparency itself. Nothing to see here, broken in pieces all day, they are forever unobserved. Let's move along. Inwardly working it out towards inward pull, the moment. All durations satient. What used to describe them when the question is how long till myself becomes autonomous? A living diagram to a dark destiny, hidden with parables in books and the library. Milton, a blind man with wings, possessing the sight of his lyrics read from a ski slope. What book wasn't a prism already of our own self-breathed perfection, of having modestly arrived before we got there and now in glass peeked back to the eyes and then to the table. All things sentient knowing all things at once. What things, you ask? I agree with them. Whatever is necessary to impress a neighbor, destroy a colleague, nectar the gods for a wicker basket of anonymity. Leveraging placement against inheritance, now on to some credit. Increased efficiencies one way and inefficiency the other. Production finished, now let us consume some things. Sandcastles filling themselves with lead. Floating now to the ocean's bottom and breeding with the surfaces. Where do we go from here? That is why we have the Book of Revelations, for you. Escape from the Americas. Keep them cool, confident in the knowing and doing of things. Stuffed with food and breeding, oiled and blessed. Give them guns and ammunitions to protect the preserved endurance of finally having it. I worry as my sorrow turns to pain of disillusionment and then to banter of fact speaking, that I may become one side abrasive surface. How does that make things better than loving and appreciating them to better places for themselves, or in their heart of hearts? The art of knowing is the art of knowing what we're dealing with doing, and context analysis for a responsibility arc. The line and focal force aspect of gravitas like moons of Saturn forced up Uranus. Before then or that experience, step out not. No orders, just suggestion. The dead are buried already, and that is judgment, requiring nothing from me or us. Thank God for paragraph forming sentence qualifiers. Tabula rasa and private property is God-given. Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws, explaining proudly to Madison first aesthetics, then everything he was so proud of after Articles Confederate. So concise this Italian formatting, that the dried joys of Machiavelli are found holding an oversized check in clown face, whispering to us limits found in Our Father. Satirically formatted as a danger to lose, too reckless to be threatening. No fun task. This realism, delimited logic in ruins so we can understand another's perspective, meddling with the scopes of our experience. This place prepared beforehand. Before us. Handled here by us. Satiations. A series of satiating irons. Burp and a thought. Fuck you. Inheritance speaks. We are revoking your ownership because there was nothing here for purchase. No one to offer you the unconsumed progress. No one to wait intent for someone else, who has the pride of progress with no intent for taking credit. Nothing appetite and deservation can explain or plead in any court of our own without the verdict being read. This judgment, you have no idea what you're talking about. So let us inform him you. The increase is not quality of life, but a devaluing of the sensations for it. To the accumulating reference of numbers. A title deed and loan certificate, which date owned, which date purchased. The value of imagination being transferred generally and then both ways lateral. Over upside down. Let's make Baron king. Exercise genetic God-given authority over the rights that preceded, becoming not the expressions but the forms, labels. Form and image, family names to be appreciated. For having been willing to have carried wool skins for so long. For us. You don't own any land, the land owns you, and you marsupial are a galactic star cluster, turning to a whirlpool. Do you want escape? With the help of accumulating numbers, do you think? Your numbers exist on a vitality network that survives on accumulated assuming, and we have avoided being ignorant of such accumulating vulnerabilities. Such as how much is in your wallet, according to your blips and chips #internet stock portfolio. Such vulnerabilities by you are not overlooked. You chose to exploit the gap rather than fix it. Money tree. To you, a single-handed gesture from a madman who knows not all, but remembers pretty much everything. Seated here, for some days at the knowledge tree. Feasting, fasting, fantasizing and wondering what you all are so afraid of. Yourself. Aha. Why so angry? Trembling penis. If you learn too much, you know a description of yourself will be coming, and I'll drop you this as a regard. Format rendering so you know where this is headed. Why do they, and I don't mean they fashion divas. They evangelicals. Why do they hang crosses around the necks, and all over church walls and pulpit? Okay, punchline, and this is the spirit of concern with which you're referenced in our places. Punchline. To remember at any moment what they are willing to do, to receive it. As uncomfortable and as awkward as that circumstance can be for them. We seem to be working ourselves out of spell formulas. Of math and meaning, and that journey is not pleasant. So why not publish a book? Give them ropes to climb up the walls of an illegal process of ostentatious objectification. to our own worlds even, and simple by standards unknown forms of progress. Not something different only but also, distellar. One to hold up as a contrast for being that white-black and I think also. 101,017. Our math has calculated perfect to the timing. Dump truck of gaseous rotting elder and a release of incise momentum. We need rules from themselves, and for us to rule them on. Permanent like Putin, Jinping, and Erdogan. Perfect templates, please keep moving forward. We will retake land when you're dead or dying by your hand. Guiding mouths to future's foreskin. You have lost final comma of commitment for thrice-ringed faction and civil war. Forcing us not to kill but sit on wayside, watching you kill yourselves. This time eating chips and from what I can tell, a banana bread and coconut mix. Forging preference from enlightened precedent. Sir, if you wish, you're ready to go home. Angels being starved by the times are waiting in love and open arms, and the love that you have given will return and rest on you. Listen to a simple comfort of agreements, back channels of thought not your own and here not especially. I thought this worldly intervention of angels something to give time to a procession of angels, understand also to give numbers an isolated quality of accumulated feature. Deserving of this position for full response with the moment. Full feature jack in the box momentum for sound clarity. The precedent. The quantificational reference or quantificational referencing, as process analytics. If you think of a human by name, it's sort of like looking at a pyramid. Lines, shapes, our thoughts will always induce symmetry for a relevant meaning to the display. If however you begin to think of them in aspects particularly, it's like opening up a Pandora's box of other pyramids, each one being quantificational upon further examination off to infinity, and eventually it bounces around and works back up the cycle, but on perspective can look like shards of broken glass ruminating by sequence. For example, ruminating electronics or numbering systems. There is no curiosity to it, it's just drafting of the process analytics. For a numeric example of processing for ruminating quantifications, consider the re-referencing of 3 and 9 in a multiplication plus addition sequential. 3x3 is 9. Okay, good, but consider further processing. 3x9 is 27, 2 plus 7 is 9, 27x3 is 54, 5 plus 4 is 9, 3x54 is 162, 1 plus 6 plus 2 is 9, 162x3 is 486, 4 plus 8 plus 6 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. 486x3 is 1458, 1 plus 4 plus 5 plus 8 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9, 3x 1458 is 4374, 4 plus 3 plus 7 plus 4 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9, and so forth. Same is true of 9, 9x9 is 81, 8 plus 1 is 9, 9x81 is 729, 7 plus 2 plus 9 is 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. The ruminating sequence we call it. Believe it or not, I figured it out while writing your first letter. Notice the descriptions of the menorah or the candlesticks to be used in Solomon's temple, 3 to every one. The same of the walls described by John for the kingdom of God, same as a pyramid, a wall clock, the crown of a king, and Stonehenge. You could think of the symbol Adidas, but what about Pythagoras?